was not looking like Michigan's night in Evanston, but the Wolverines roar back in the second half and end up winning by a dozen. Woo! How about that? Thanks for staying up. If that's the case right now, if you're watching this one back, it's completely understandable, or listening to it in the morning. You always have that option where you can go back and check this one out via the podcast or on YouTube. But if you're up and watching this one live, you watched a game tonight that the majority of the time it looked like Michigan, if you melted down, understandable. If you were saying, you know, what the heck? I mean, this is Northwestern's the worst team, and one of the worst teams, certainly in the Big Ten record-wise. And you know, Michigan, somebody should have told them that, you know, the game was starting at 8:36 or whatever it started. And, you know, they were down big at the half. They were down by 16 in the second half, but they put it together. And the key to coming back in this game was Michigan's bench, and in particular, LJ Kaysen. LJ Kaysen came in. Elliot Cadeau was throwing the ball, you know, all over the place, did not have a good night, obviously. And Kaysen came in and hit big shots, settled things down, played good defense, hit free throws, and he was really the catalyst. Also, in the turnaround, you know, Yax McKinney, he scored all of his points in the second half. We'll look at that box score. And then Morris Johnson Jr. there as well. And Mara, we're going to talk about him a lot. You know, I know we'll think about Saturday's game against his former team, UCLA, and his head coach in Cronin, not giving him any respect this week. But, you know, then Mara was there and made a few plays, excuse me, at the end. But we'll take some of the feedback in this one. And again, this was one, if you're a Michigan fan, that through 75% of the game, it looked like they were going to lose. And I guess you could say they flipped the switch. Northwestern, they wore Northwestern down, that's for sure. They're guys that were in there. They didn't have that lift, and Michigan has done that a few times. You can't count on doing that. But Michigan did do that. Northwestern, you could see the tank. Michigan had a huge run to end this game. The Wolverines were a 15.5-point favorite. They damn near covered that, which was, you know, shocking. I mean, it's surprising that they came back and won. It would have been shocking if they would have covered. And to get and win by double figures, there will be a lot of people that will wake up tomorrow morning and be like, damn, I mean, how did that happen? Michigan looked like they were going to lose the game. I mean, it was not looking good. It was looking very bad. Being down 16 points in the second half, it was just loose passing and too many easy ones. And, you know, you credit Northwestern in the early going. I mean, they were hitting everything. And when the one big man who was shooting, they said 27% from downtown, jacked one up and it went in. It's like, oh no. And then Michigan, they were not really hitting anything. And they did start to put it together. The run came halfway through the second half, where they started getting it going. And then really, Michigan did not take the lead, even though they won by 12, until there were 7 minutes to go. And the Last had held the lead when it was 10-8 in the first half. And then Trey McKinney hit a 3, and Michigan won up 7. Northwestern did come back and take a 1-point lead. And then Michigan came back, and they ran away with it after that. But the first half, you know, nothing fun there. Michigan down 44-35. They're down 9. And the Cats are making everything. Michigan's missing everything, including easy shots. The shots at the rim, they were missing layups. They're missing bunnies, and they were turning it over. 11 turnovers in the first half. And then they also had some foul trouble. Burnett had fouls right off the bat. Morris Johnson Jr. had 2 in the second half, so he had to sit down. And, you know, not pretty overall when you look at the numbers shooting. Michigan 4 of 17 from downtown. That's too many threes, especially too many threes when you're just going to shoot 24% from downtown, 35% field goal. Michigan's better than that. I mean, they should shoot 50%. Meanwhile, you just look at Northwestern in the first half. They shot over 50% field goals and 42% from downtown. And somebody named Jaden Reed led all scorers with a dozen at the half. And Michigan, they win this one, and they move to 23-1 overall, 13-1 in the Big Ten. It continues to be their best start in school history. Arizona lost on Monday. And if Michigan can take care of business against UCLA on Saturday, I think on Monday that they will be the number one team in the country. Now, you could try to make a case for Arizona, saying, hey, Arizona has the better loss. Both Michigan and Arizona have one loss. Arizona's coming at Kansas. Michigan's coming at home to Wisconsin. But when you look at the other particulars that we will look at, some of the metrics, I believe, and they were talking about it on the broadcast, that they thought that, Michigan, and I do think that will happen. It won't be the worst thing ever if somehow Arizona, stays at one, but I don't think that's going to happen. So it'll actually be nice if Michigan can take care of business on Saturday. You're definitely emphasizing that now, because for a lot of the night, it looked like maybe they were thinking a little bit too much about being the number one team in the country, and they were playing like, one of the worst teams in the country. JP says, well, we can trust LJ if Elliott is doing bad. That's a good takeaway. I like that. I got my dog in the studio, and that's not going really well. She wants to sit on my lap. No sitting on my lap here. Not right now. Daisy. MGO Blue 1337 says Dusty May has Harbaugh tier clock management, and that's not a compliment. Well, I would give you this, that I think that the majority of Michigan fans have been troubled. If there's one thing that they don't like about Dusty May's coaching style, is that he does not call timeouts when the opponents have runs. I have asked him more than anyone else in his Monday news conferences about calling timeouts, and he went on and on last year about it and what he's looking at, and all of this back and forth. And then I asked him again this year after the Wisconsin loss about the timeouts, and he talked about flow and all of this kind of stuff. And he said he would not have called he said he would have called timeout sooner if it would have been a tournament game. I believe that's what he said there. But they're in the first half, why not call some timeouts in there when it was getting away from them. To his credit, though, you'd have to say, MGB, that he did call a timeout before it got to the under 16 in the second half. He did call a timeout. So, a little bit of credit there. But, overall, like I said, Michigan fans, I think that would be everyone's number one complaint. I don't know if there would be another what number two would be with Dusty May, but that's number one. And I get it. And I don't really have a defense for him other than his team is 23-1. So he loves the flow. And I would say, I'm going to guess why Dusty does not call the timeouts. Well, he has said it. Michigan has a deep bench. When you're giving the other team a blow, and you get it, you can stop runs out there on the court. You can make adjustments out there on the court. You don't necessarily have to call a timeout. And if you feel like you have much more depth than the other team, you're giving them a rest. And Dusty's idea is, let's keep the pressure on. Let's keep the game over here. Let's not let them get this additional rest. Let's run them off the court. Now, it played out that way tonight. I'm not saying I think he should. If it seems like to me, I would have been over there in the first half calling more timeouts. And like I said, to his credit, he did call the timeout early in the second half. But I get your complaint, and I think it's a legit complaint. Joe says a game like that on the road will be nice to draw on come March. Well, how about this? When you win a game like that, if you watch this game, when you win a game on the road like that, and they have to feel like, woo, that they almost lost it. I think you're correct. You know how you get where, teams like, I'm sure Arizona fans would say, they were thinking about going undefeated. Hell, Michigan fans were thinking about that prior to the Wisconsin game. And then, the debate comes, well, there's so much pressure and there's so much talk about going undefeated that maybe a loss is good. Now, I've never, subscribed to that theory myself, but close shaves, listless performance, whatever you wanted to call, what they were doing, going through the motions through the first 75% of the game, this will have your attention. It doesn't matter if it's Northwestern. And I know, they've got, payroll fresh, and they're talking about going into the opponent's arena and taking it over to this line. They're walking in Welsh Ryan Arena and taking it over. That's what payroll fresh is saying there. But yes, I agree that an experience like this will benefit them. CY says he's so proud of these guys. They never gave up. Got Northwestern in foul trouble. Played so smart. Also, smart coaching. Joe says away games in the Big Ten are no joke. Take the dub, learn from the atrocious first half, and keep on going. Yeah, the only thing I would add to here is I'm right with you. The Big Ten away games, take the W, learn from the atrocious first half, and the first 5-6 minutes, I would say, of the second half. So it wasn't all, coming out in the second half and put the big, elbow on them. That wasn't it, Under par says that was a dub. No, that's not what he says. He says, what the blank was that? That was a dub, a hard-earned dub against a lower-tiered Northwestern team. What do you want me? I'm not calling them frisky. They were frisky in the first half. J Dub says Martinelli has one of the most punchable faces in the Big Ten. I would agree with that. I mean, he's going to get under your skin. He got under Mara's skin. Mara got called for a flagrant. A lot of Michigan fans, I've said this, I watched the game, watching the game, but I also am on the Maize and Blue Review, and we have a live thread going on there, and the fans on the Maize and Blue Review were incensed. They did not think that was a flagrant call. They also thought Martinelli should have been teed up himself because he was screaming at Mara. Now, that's not really the way that I saw it. I thought when, if Mara would have, kept his hands up, and even, you can fall out of the plane of verticality a little bit and go into it, but he kind of swung his arms down. He's so big, and he did catch him in the face with an elbow. And certainly Martinelli got upset and was yelling at him. And if it wasn't for Yaks, maybe there would have been a little bit, that's, it would have been like a, Pistons Hornets type situation, but, Slick Martinelli, he was fired up. He would be a nice portal addition, according to 1337, the Southpaw. We came back and won. I'm happy. Yeah, that's right. On to UCLA. BK's just, he's just saying, wow. And he is on to the next game. And yeah, Cadeau had a bad game. Cadeau at North Carolina had a crazy turnover rate. It was more than Trey Donaldson. So when he came in, you're thinking, wow, Donaldson and the team last year, that was one of their things that stood out. They liked the team, fun team, but they turned the ball over too much. And Donaldson turned it over. So when they went to the transfer portal and they got Cadeau, and you looked at his turnover rate and you say, wow, this guy turns the ball over more than he's one of the worst turnover rates in the country. And he turns it over more than Donaldson. What the hell? But, Cadeau has been really good. He's shot way better than from downtown than I thought. And at one point he was 3 for 4 from downtown. But I think maybe he wanted to go Showtime a little bit too early. He's whipping passes cross court. I don't know. Yax does it sometimes, but they're just seem like mindless passes. Throwing it to the opponent, and it drags everybody down. When you are the quarterback, you can't do that. And somebody said it earlier. I think it was CY. You, I think, said it, that it's nice to know that you can put LJ in there. And, LJ was a godsend tonight. That was awesome. Jay Scott says he was worried. I said if we got it down to 6 by 9 to 10 minutes, we would be good. And, well, you said that, and what was it? With 10 to go. Actually, I have it written down here, not up on the screen. With 10 to go, they were down 4. So what you said was prophetic. Right? That's where we're at. We'll take more of your feedback. Let's get to the Amazing Blue Review player of the game. I threw in LJ Kaysen as our player of the game. Maybe the numbers, when you look at it, you could pick some other guys, but considering LJ came in, it seemed like it was the turning point of the game for Michigan. Yax was good in the second half, 15 points, 12 boards, 2 blocks. Here's Mara, 12, 7, and 7. He had 3 blocks. Perez Johnson Jr., 12 points, 9 boards. Michigan's front line. Yax and Johnson Jr. were really good. 3 blocks. Look at the blocks. 3 for Johnson, 3 for Mara, and 2 for Lindenborg. Lindenborg is pinning guys on the glass. Here's Cadeau's game. How many? 5 turnovers. 5 turnovers is too many. Too many. And then Burnett got into some foul trouble. We didn't really see much of him. He had 6 points and 1 board. And then here's the bench. Yeah, Kaysen, 18 points coming in, 4 steals, and 3 feeds. 7 of 9 from the stripe. Also, honorable mention from the bench, Trey McKinney, 12 points. I believe all 12. I don't have to believe because I take a screenshot of the halftime numbers, and Trey McKinney had 2 points at the half. So 10 of his 12 happening in the second half, 12 points, 5 boards, and then he slipped on a drink late in the game, diving into the stands, and he was all right, but then the drink was on the floor, and he did, like the splits, and it didn't look good for a second, but he was laughing on the bench a couple minutes later. I'm going to say he looked like he was going to be okay. Gale's struggle continued. That's not good. 3 points and 2 boards. Cheddar was in there late. I was thinking, wow, man, Cheddar's getting some big-time run here in a big-time spot. Nothing but goose eggs in the assist points and rebounds. 0 for 2 for Cheddar. Dusty puts him in and says, let's see what he can bring to the table. Can he knock down a shot or two? When he can't, get the hook out. And that is what happened there. Vin says they have to stop starting games with crazy 3-point shooting. Yeah, last game they shot really well from, 3-point shooting comes and goes, guarding the 3-point line. BK wants Mara to get better at the free throw line. That could come back to bite us, no doubt. That's been going on for a while. He got a little bit better, but yeah, that is something that you would like to see happen. Johnson Jr. and Trey killed it. Made the difference tonight. Yeah, Trey McKinney, Johnson Jr. I'm with you. Actually, I thought Kaysen, Trey McKinney off the bench, and then both Yax and MJJ were good. No doubt Martinelli was out of gas. The whole Cats team was. One Alcroft says, works everything. When Michigan is losing, I look away and they come back. Hey, I like it. So we'll keep doing that. Keep doing whatever you're doing when they're down. JP says it seemed like a game where it would be a woozy. Easy? Woozy? I don't know. A couple more, and we'll look at the schedule and everything else. Rez did have a hell of a game. No doubt. Brandon's not surprised, though every team will give us their best, and for some reason, Northwestern plays us really good on their court. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know about, for I think you're right. Teams, they know when you're now, we're talking about them being the number one team, in the nation. They've been in the top 5. They've been 2 or 3. Did they fall below 3? I don't think so. They've been 2 most of the year, and now they're going to be number 1. Yeah. When that happens, everybody's fired up. Let's go to the game. Michigan's the best team in the Big Ten. They're in first place. People are talking about them, being the favorite. Not people, Vegas and people, I guess, all of them are talking about them, being the favorite to win it all. So, yeah. This isn't good. We had some marital issues here. My wife got upset and snapped at me to stop yelling at the TV. Yeah, well, it was. I think you should get a pass. Tell your wife to give me a call. I'll give you a pass. Everybody was beside themselves. I mean, you get that you can have a bummer of a game, a bad game, and things like that, but not against Northwestern. And not as bad as when they're down 16. No, I think yelling at the TV was the right way to go. At least you didn't, maybe you should have had your wife pull her phone out and start videotaping, then, you do like some of those, you see some of the videos where people like punch their TV or take their TV and throw it out the window and things like that. I once kicked my remote and I thought that I broke my toe. I didn't. That was when I was younger. It's probably, I don't know. I definitely, it was probably after a bad call. JD is talking about it being a tale as old as time. Northwestern just can't hang with the big guys for a full game. Has happened a few times in football also. They lead, and then we come back in the end. I'm with you. Here's another Michigan Go Blue, but the 1-3-2-4 coming in from Vermont. Speculating on Trey slipping down there. Do you think he sprained his ankle? Worst case, just a minor sprain, might be nothing. It could have been an ankle, could have been a hammy, could have been a groin. He looked like he did the splits. So you're right. It could be nothing. I'm not, worst case. What do you want me to come up and say? No, he could have, he could have pulled a hammy there, but no, he was smiling. So that's why I feel like it might be nothing. Chris asks, what's my biggest takeaway from the game? My biggest takeaway is that Michigan has a very deep bench. And they're not just players, Trey McKinney and LJ Kaysen. LJ Kaysen played like, they said it on the broadcast, but he was playing like an all Big Ten player tonight. Cadeau has been playing like an all Big Ten player. So for Dusty to switch that out and for Kaysen to step up, that's my biggest takeaway, the player of the game. I've seen Yaks. I've seen Morez Johnson Jr. I know what, they're going to bring to the table. I like Michigan posting them up, but my biggest takeaway is McKinney continues to get better and better. Came up big in the second half with 10 points. And then Kaysen was gigantic. They're not going to win this game if it's not for Kaysen. So that's got to be my takeaway. for that. Yes, I think that Michigan will be number one. I would vote for Michigan number one. Oh, okay, yeah, you're working for the Maize and Blue Review, people would say. Yeah, but I try to be objective on it. Even being objective, I'll get to why I would vote for him. Willow says it was great use of personnel by Dusty tonight. Cadeau didn't have it, and Burnett was a foul machine. Good point. I also thought that Dusty, and maybe any coach would do it, but when the game was turning, there was a hook and hold, and Dusty challenged it. You got to give the staff, got to give Dusty. Those are quick decisions you got to make, and the challenge. And remember the Michigan State game, that was in the first half, and it was Yaks. That was a huge turning point in that game. And in this game, Michigan was getting it going a little bit, but then there was the hook and hold. Now, Mara bricked both of the free throws, but Michigan got the ball back. Could have been a 5-point swing. Yaks, I believe, scored, he did, I think, get 2 points there. And so it ended up being a 2-point swing, but Northwestern didn't get the ball, but it could have been, obviously, if they shot a 3 and made the free throws, a 5-point swing. Jay is talking about winning by double digits is huge after being down 16. The free throws killed us and yet saved us. The turnovers, not good. I thought McKinney hit some high-pressure free throws in there. Got to slow it down sometimes. Well, they're not going to do that. Sorry, Jay. They're not going to. Michigan, when you look at possessions, offensive possessions per game, they're in the top 10. They're the number one team in the Big Ten, and they're in the top 10 in the country. I know there's a few teams that I don't even know had teams that are up into so they're definitely in the top 20. I said top 10. They're definitely number one in the Big Ten. They were last week when I looked at it. And what that's telling you is what Dusty always says, that they're going at a breakneck speed. They don't need a shot clock. And within the first 5 seconds, when they get over the timeline, they're making a pass and somebody's getting the ball and they're going up. It's a 5-second shot clock for Michigan. Count it when they have the ball. It works on the bad turnovers. Cadeau, I think Gale, they're always talking. He feels sped up. But yeah, they don't just pass it around. Now, Dusty did say on Monday he liked how they were getting it a little side-to-side action and some ball reversals. So maybe they're looking for it a little bit more. So that way. John thinking that Michigan took Northwestern lightly at first and then phoned it in and then poured it on in the end. I thought Northwestern came out swinging. And they were connecting. And does Michigan come out and say, it doesn't matter. We'll just not make any threes. We'll jack them up. It's human nature. So maybe you're right. The new life, back from 9 down to a double-digit win. Awesomeness. Back from 16 down. 9 at the half. This is true. Brian says Michigan wears teams down. Too much depth. Like a boa constrictor. Ooh. Best game I've seen Kaysen play to this point. He kept the starters on the bench, and that was huge. That's from the WB. Ty, where's Ty been? Walk into your trap and take over your trap.
Walk in your trap and take over your trap.
There you go. Sloppy play in the first half and shots not going down. I'm with it. How about it? And there's my guy, Mar. He's an all-star. He's all Big Ten. That's it. Couple more here, and then we'll get to the upcoming schedule. John said it was a fun game to watch. I'll give you this, John. Not the first half wasn't fun. That's why I don't wear a hat, because I get hot. The first half was not fun. And then the first couple of minutes of the second half was not fun. When they were down 16 in the second half, I wasn't sitting there saying, this is a fun game to watch. But now, John, when Michigan made their run and it got heated, the Cats got heated, the Martinelli, the Mara had, then everything got really cranked up. It got really amped up. Then it was a fun game to watch. It was intense. And Kaysen did step up. Merez is impactful, despite not being prioritized in the offense. Yeah, I think that when you have Mara down low, it's tough to prioritize. And then Yaks, when they put him down in the post, I love that drop step that he had when he was going to go to his right and go for a dunk, and he just turned and made a post move to his left. Whereas Johnson Jr. would be the number one option down low for a lot of teams. He's just not for Michigan. That just speaks to, they've got a great front line that might take them all the way to the championship. This is one of the best front lines I've ever seen. One of the best front lines in college basketball, certainly this year. Arizona's pretty good. But Michigan's is great. One of the all-time great front lines, so it's tough to prioritize them. And dunk on small players more. And credit to Mara for keeping his cool. Morez has a little bit of, they call him the junkyard dog, I think, on the team. He's got a little rough and tumble to him. And, Mara, too, hey, swatting some shots. And no, you don't want him. You don't want guys to take flagrant fouls. But, Mara, you give him a little pass. That's not like Jeremy Fears level for Michigan State dirty. Once in a while, you do get a flagrant. Fears is, he should be, he's kind of a psycho. It loses it and acts like an idiot and does things that it's going to get him elbowed or punched in the face, and you don't want to see it. But then when he does it and he gets a big cut and somebody does it, you're going to say you understand because he has it coming. I don't know why. I just have to go to Fears because because Michigan State fans are all coming to his defense, and I guess that's what you do when you're a fan base. But man, they got a real dirty MFer on their team. I hope it costs them. Ted says Michigan was just trying to make Northwestern feel good for a while before letting the hammer down and forcing them to go home disappointed. Well, that's a easy thing to say now, Ted. Where were you during the game? Gale's dunk. Gale did have a sequence. The dunk was good. Even the announcer said Gale's leading this charge. So he did have a little bit going in there. It's a good thing to point out. J-Dub says, don't be bad-mouthing Detroit tonight. What's up? Why is he bad-mouthing Detroit? There's no reason to be bad-mouthing Detroit. That's it. All right. I thank you, 1337, for coming on and giving some feedback live during the show. J-Dub says Mar was making a joke about T the other night. Who's T? I'm lost. I'm lost on it. So when I get lost, the best thing to do is get to some of the stuff that I was going to get to. This is why if I was a voting member of the College Basketball Associated Press Top 25, I would put Michigan at number 1. Currently, they're ranked number 2. But they are 23-1. When you look at Ken Pom, they are number 1. When you look at their defensive efficiency, they are number 1. And offensively, they're number 5. And so that's not a small thing, being number 1 on Ken Pom. Also, when you talk about quad wins and quad ones and all that, that is part of the formula, if not the entire formula, that the net, and they use the net in seeding, they use the net when they are filling out the brackets, the selection committee does, the NCAA evaluation tool. That's what NET stands for. And currently, Michigan is number 1 in the NET. That's was yesterday. Actually, they moved back in front of Arizona, even when Arizona was undefeated. Now, if Arizona would have won that game at Kansas, maybe that'd have been a nice quad. That would have been a great win. But they lost that one. And so Michigan, all signs point for me to Michigan. I think Arizona will get some votes. You could look at they could make a case for that one loss, and Michigan's one loss, that they have a better loss, which is true. Wisconsin at home, Kansas on the road, both have one loss. There's your argument. But when you lose, it's been a while since Michigan has lost now, and Arizona just did lose. And Michigan's got they got the Ken Palms and they got the net. My prediction, it's not that big of a deal, but I want Michigan. That was part of the profile for the Wolverines this year, or I guess the goals that I was hoping that they would hit along the way to cutting down the nets in Indianapolis on April the 6th. One of those was to ascend to the number 1 ranking in the Associated Press. That can happen if they beat UCLA. The other one, a couple goals there along the way, was sweeping MSU. That's still alive. Beating Purdue at Mackey. They have a chance to do that coming up on Tuesday. Winning the Big Ten regular season. Michigan has one loss in the Big Ten. There's 3 or 4 teams that are sitting there tied for second. They all have 3 losses, so they're on their way to do that. I wouldn't mind doing the double-double, Big Ten tournament and Big Ten regular season champs. A number 1 overall seed wouldn't be too shabby. And, of course, if they win it all, they'll be going to the Final Four. Those are the kind of things that I'm looking at. I wouldn't mind beating Duke either if we're just going to keep it rolling. Illinois on the road, win the rest of their games. Let's go. Do I think they're going to win the rest of their games? I don't know. All those games that I mentioned, they still got a pretty difficult run coming up. I would say probably not, but I don't want to ruin anybody's post-game high. I don't want to be a Debbie Downer on that. And after a game that looks like you're going to lose, you think, oh, there goes number 1. Oh, man, this team. And they pull it out. They win by 12. Let's go. Let's not talk about, losing a ball game. Cy Homer says, my hub's in bed already. I was the one screaming. Hail yes. Let's go. Now, Cy Homer, that's my favorite feedback of the game that's coming down here. What's up, Mar? People knocking Mar on the feedback, saying that Mar has gone wonky. You were just living and he got all serious, a little neurotic. And you know what? That can happen, to the best of us. I don't know about neurotic, but getting a little, get a little crazy. Speaking of getting a little crazy, I mean, you're looking for a Valentine's Day gift. When's Valentine's Day? The 14th, coming up Saturday, I think. Well, I don't know how you get the information to your significant other, but what I want you to do somehow, maybe write a little note. The person that you're with knows that you love Michigan. They got to know that. And they got, they probably have gotten you Michigan shirts or a Michigan tie. Now, maybe some Michigan basketball tickets. Now that would be a Valentine's Day gift I could get behind. Another gift I could get behind for Valentine's Day? A gift to the Maize and Blue Review that takes your Michigan fandom to the next level. Go ahead, give yourself or that beautiful partner of yours for Valentine, give it a little blue rose or Maize and Blue Rose with it. Say, hey, and a Maize and Blue Review. Come on. give that gift. Go to on3.com, hit that subscribe button. I know this. I'll give you some advice about the ladies that are watching. They'll all say, yeah, ladies want they want they want a nice gift. I was gonna say they want anything. That's not true, but they want you to just put some thought. If they feel like you put some thought into it, that's why you do a little homemade card that puts some thought into it. Selected flowers that are just taken off the shelf that puts some thought into it. The Maize and Blue review, where you get rivals, you get On3, you get the Maize and Blue review, and now you're all set. Your girlfriend's going to be like, hell yeah. Now, this could be a little sneaky. You give her the Maize and Blue review, say, hey, look, you could take your Michigan fandom to the next level, and then you could be, I think you guys can, I don't know, you share the account. I think that's what you do, maybe. Mar, we got some text coming in here. There's a lot of a text thread of talk. They just are talking about Justin Verlander. People are going crazy. Whoa. Mar has texted me and he wants to clear the air. He says, my intention was not to disparage or slander the city. He was talking about a broader conversation. There's no malice or agenda attached, just commentary on information already in the public domain. So that's it. Respectfully, don't misinterpret my commentary and then try to challenge my integrity over it. Now, Mar, you're good in my book. Like I'm saying, you're good in my book. So that's it. I don't know what else I can say. You're good in my book. All right. Here's the upcoming schedule. It took a long time to get into the upcoming schedule, but Michigan's got a matinee coming up on Saturday. All right. I was looking at the weather. Looks like it's going to break. Michigan's playing UCLA. I want Michigan to smash the Bruins. Their head coach is the biggest crybaby west of the Mississippi. And if Tom Izzo wasn't around, he might be the biggest crybaby in all of college basketball. Mick Cronin. He cries over everything. Oh, he'll be a boo-hoo. Our team's biorhythms are going to be screwed up because we live out in LA. Hey, talk to your president, talk to your athletic director. You guys don't mind. Old Mick crying about money and NIL, and that guy's probably making $6 to $8 million a year, whatever it is. I'm sick of these coaches over there talking about, oh, well, the other team spend, and meanwhile, he's cashing $8 million checks. Boo-hoo, Mick. Boo-hoo. He was asked about Ade Mara, and the reporter said, I was just reading the transcript. Reporter was like, and, Mara's playing well, and he said, that's your opinion. Oh, wow. I hope Mara slams home Cronin. And I don't want any gestures towards the bench because that, you could tee it up and everything else. But, a quick look over to Mick after a couple dunks, you don't have to make any gestures. But you know what? Maybe he could tell him something in Spanish. Bad Bunny was swearing up a storm at the Super Bowl and they weren't editing him. I don't know. Maybe the refs, they're not bilingual or everything. They're not going to know any Spanish. Running up the court, say a couple, blank you. Take your little bald self back to L.A., you SOB. But say it in Spanish. Nobody's going to know. I'm not going to tee Mara up for that. But, don't yell it over there because, then they might be able to figure it out. But the Bruins on Saturday, and then we have the gauntlet. Purdue on the road on Tuesday. Oh, man. And then the Blue Devils. Pretty boys. The Pretty Boys coming up a week from Saturday in D.C. Pretty Boys. Soft. the Blue Devils. Shire will be all, well, Michigan fans will rush the court in D.C. I don't know if they will or not, but I want him to so he can cry about it. Cronin's going to cry. Shire's going to cry. Minnesota at Illinois. Woo! At Illinois. At Illinois is a tough one. If you looked at those, the net, currently Illinois is top 5 in net. But there's the schedule. If you missed it, Michigan did pick up a recruit. You know, they had 4 for 2026. Now they picked up another one from Mount Verde Academy via Cincinnati, Ohio, 6'9", 6'10", lefty named Cosby. We'll see how that ends up playing out. Let's take a few more off the feedback before we call it a night. Got to get past the whines of the whiny whiner, that Mick Cronin. I'm right there with you. I will guarantee this, if I am able to, I mean, like being able to walk or whatever else, I can't predict the future. I'll be at that parade, the Michigan Basketball Championship Parade. You know, the Michigan Football Parade in 2023, anyone who went to that parade, I mean, it says that I like a parade. No, it says I love a parade, which is true. Michigan has a parade. It's 20 below. It was crazy cold. 20 below. But I said, I love a parade. How often are you going to be able to go to a parade? And it was great. It was a great parade. I was happy I went there to the parade. And, you know, maybe at some point, if they get championship, you say, oh, I'm tired of, parades. Is that going to happen? Yeah, I'm tired of parties. I'm tired of all these championships. Tired of all these natties. Yes, we all could. Okay, a few more. This is off the court from Ferris, who's giving us a pro tip. He says he got his wife flowers today. Get those flowers early. They won't be upset if you get them the fresh stuff now. Well, I mean, it's a pro tip if you think you're going to forget. But won't the freshest flowers? I mean, where are you going to put them? You're getting them now for, hey, here's an early Valentine's Day. And then what happens on Valentine's Day? Ferris, you're going to be like, what am I getting now? Oh, okay, here, I have some chocolates or something. I think you get them Saturday morning. And when you come home, you get the flowers in one hand, you get the Amazing Blue Review in the other, and then you're all set. McKinney, as cool as a cucumber, crunch time winner. McKinney's great. He is. I don't think he's going pro. I mean, I don't know. I don't think he is. He's going to be great next year. But I'm focusing in on. I'm not like a coach, and I'm only taking it one game at a time. I'm looking forward to Purdue and Duke and the Big Ten tournament and the NCAA tournament. But so sometimes you peek ahead. McKinney's going to be great next year. My ex was a sportsicle. If that is that she didn't like sports, I had a friend, a big sports fan. And when I met his wife, he said, she didn't really like sports. I'm like, yeah, it doesn't matter. But she hated sports. She hated him. Not only did she hate sports, she hated him for watching sports. And hey, guess what? They got divorced. And they got married pretty young. We'd go over there and we'd watch games. We should never have done that. Speaking of wives, mine's texting me. What was my point on that? Oh, we were over there. They had babies, and she would be yelling about us making too much noise, and it's like the Red Wing playoff games. We shouldn't have been over there. But I was thinking to myself, this isn't going to work for him. No way. He also liked to play golf. She didn't like. Not only did she not like him watching sports, she didn't like him playing sports. I've had a few friends over the years say, "Hey, what do you think of my wife? What do you think of my girlfriend? I'm thinking about, is she a keeper or whatever?" And I've given some. I don't know if I've given any negative feedback to the couple that I'm thinking about. Well, my one friend was asking me, did he think his wife or his girlfriend was hot enough? And she was pretty hot. I said, yeah, I think she was hot. With my other friend had some other things I can't really talk about. That I don't know how, but he's still married, so I think that's good. If he would have asked me, I'd have said, I don't know, she really doesn't like. She hates sports. She doesn't like you playing golf. What the hell? I knew we're not going to go. I knew I wasn't going to get through a show without any talking about any JV. Well, to go along with the PR move, they also got FV. If they didn't get FV and they just got JV, then I would be, pretty down on the JV move. But I'm going to tell you this, Smash. All of those games when Verlander was in his heyday at Detroit that I watched, you would see the arm and you'd say, he's just got one of the greatest arms ever. Reminds you of Nolan Ryan. Go look at what Nolan Ryan did when he was 43, 44 years old. Those numbers aren't too shabby. I have to text my wife. Why don't I shut this down? Sorry for the feedback. I'll take 3 more. Let's get down here towards the end. Lincoln Cosby, that's right. There's the name. Mark says this is a very deep team, a lot like the 92 Duke team. Soft Duke team. Oh, the new life. Well, it's great that you're able to overcome. Sometimes when you're married, you do have some things that you have to overcome. It's great that you've been able to overcome that, still stay happily married. One point, she's going to be like, "Are you watching YouTube again?" Guys screaming and yelling about Michigan basketball. We just ended football season, and now you're screaming about basketball season. And then with basketball season, I'm watching the Masters for 4 days, 8 hours of Masters coverage, and then I'll move right into April in the D, the Pistons and the Red Wings. It'll be back. Talking about feeling like old times. We'll have the NFL draft. We'll have the Red Wings and the Pistons in the playoffs. Then the Tigers look like, they're certainly the favorites, if not in all the American League, certainly in the Central. I mean, things are looking up. Michigan's going to win a natty in basketball and in hockey. Got that little double going. I want to go to the Final Four in Indy. I want to go to the Frozen Four in Vegas. I want to go to opening day. I mean, my wife, I better text her some sweet things before I start giving her my plans. All right. Okay. It was a tough one, and glad they overcame. That is from Luke. Great way to put it, Luke. It was a great one. Great win by Michigan after being down by 9 at the half. Looked a little listless. They outlast Northwestern. They get within 4 with 10 minutes to go, and they just kept leaning on them and leaning on them. They put that run together, and it was a magical run led by L.J. Kaysen and Trey McKinney off the Michigan bench. Yax, Morris Johnson Jr. were there a day. Mara made some plays at the end. In the end, Michigan wins it 87-75. They moved to 23-1 overall and 13-1 in the Big Ten. Thanks so much for watching. Everybody have a great rest of their Wednesday. Only a couple minutes left. And then I'll talk with you on Friday on this very channel that you're watching or listening to, unless you are a member of the Maize and Blue Review. Well, then I'll see you over there in a couple minutes and all day tomorrow, heading into the weekend. I mean, that's where I'm hanging out. Take care, everybody. And good night.
Walk your drop and take over your drop.
That'll do it. It's over. Let's see here. I'm not watching this game. Doot, doot, doot. Podcast. Almost over. Doot, 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 doot. This is the jam. So long, everybody.
Walk your drop and take over.